Episode 10, The Good, the Bad, and the Fugly. Today on...
Press B to cancel.
Hello and welcome everyone to Press B to Cancel. My name is Guy Prime, and with me today we have our usual dais of rapscallions. To my left is Werewolf. Say hello, Werewolf.
Hello, Werewolf.
Apt. Also with me today, Sick Jake.
Hey everybody, glad to be here.
And of course, Palsh 109.
Whatever happened to Palsh 108? Never mind.
Yeah, the less
We had to let him go.
Yeah.
A lot of turnover in the Palsh departments.
There can be only one.
There can be only... Yeah, Palsh is the equivalent title to Highlander, if you're Canadian. All right, so...
That's a worldwide sensation, I'm sorry. Everybody in every country loves Highlander.
That's true. That's true. Okay. All right, so today we're going to be discussing kind of a variety. It's a little bit of a different show tonight. Typically, we just take one game or one series and we discuss our experiences, our likes or dislikes. Tonight, we're going a little bit different. The title of the episode, tentatively, was called The Good, the Bad, and the Fugly. If you don't know what fugly means, have one of your ugly friends explain it to you. But okay, so essentially, the idea of this episode is that we can all acknowledge the great games. They look good, they play good, the sound is great, and we can all acknowledge the crap games. They look horrible, they sound horrible, there are no redeeming qualities. So tonight we're discussing the games in between. Games that either look gorgeous, but are otherwise devoid of anything meaningful. We will call those Travoltas. Or the ugly games that have a lot of heart. We're going to call those Quasimodos. Okay? So those are the two categories today. I'm going to start us off, and then we'll discuss and go around the table as we always do. But we're going to start off with the ugly but great or Quasimodo category. And I'll tell you what, guys, let's just go through different video game systems. We'll start with the 8-bit video games. For me, it's NES, which is going to be Bionic Commando. Okay, so I love this game. I played it on stream recently, and I'm always reminded about how much I love it. But truthfully, the color palette is obnoxious. There's not the greatest animations between your character or the bad guys that you're trying to kill, and it's repetitive as hell. So that's kind of the idea here. Let's talk about Bionic Commando, and if you guys agree, let me know. If you disagree, let's have that conversation. Werewolf, what do you think?
I've actually not played a lot of Bionic Commando. I think the last time I played it was, I was 7 years old. So almost 30 years ago. Good grief. So I can't say much to it. But I can say that from what I've seen people play on Twitch recently, it's not a pretty game. But I do see a lot of people playing it on Twitch recently. So that must be some testament to its quality.
Sure, yeah, okay. So it's a popular enough game. It's not always the best to look at. So if you're going to watch Bionic Commando...
Have a beer or two first.
Have a beer or two first. Good God.
Yeah, beer goggles only enhance it.
All right. Okay. Sick Jake. Palsh, what do you guys think about Bionic Commando?
Are we going sick Palsh or Jake 109? Who's going first?
We merged together. We are one.
Yeah, give us that sexy fusion voice.
Yeah, that Trunks fusion voice.
Yes.
Go Tanks.
9,000.
All right. Sorry, guys. We'll go with Jake first. Jake, what do you think about Bionic Commando?
So Bionic Commando, I played this quite a bit as a kid. I'm just trying to struggle. How much variety was there in the enemies?
Well, as far as the enemy sprite goes, all of your entry-level guys were pretty much the same. There were maybe one or two, boulder throwers or, rocket launcher guys. But otherwise, yeah, all the same.
Yeah, none of them stand out to me in hindsight when I kind of think back to that game, I don't remember anything notable graphic wise. I remember the bad color palette, like you mentioned, for sure. It's poor choice there. All I really remember about graphics is the main character. As a kid, I thought he was like a Doc Ock ripoff with that weird mechanical arm. That's all I got from that game. Graphic wise, nothing memorable at all. I didn't care for it. Gameplay wise, it was actually quite fun. I mean, mechanics were solid.
Right, yeah, and I think that's exactly right. I think the biggest mechanic, or the biggest saving grace to this game, would be the mechanics. No jumping, just extendo arm. And also, to me, I love the sounds. This is, for me, one of the rare games where not just the soundtrack, but the noises of the game were so perfect. And for me, they invoke such a strong nostalgia. But, I mean, yeah, I think that's exactly kind of the heart of what the category is. So, Palsh, what do you think about Bionic Commando?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as Jake. It's like, I don't remember a lot, but the things I do remember, they're kind of stuck in my brain. Like, I remember not being able to jump and always wanting to swing like Spider-Man, basically. Ever since then, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I remember playing the game and I was thinking, this is so cool. But I never thought it was amazingly good looking. I just thought that was the coolest idea. So I think,
sure.
Yeah, looks-wise, no. But, gameplay-wise, I thought it was fun. So I agree with it completely.
It's got that heart, that addictive quality that after you leave the game, like if you haven't beaten it, you're wanting to go back and continue, or, just pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this. I don't have this for every category, but the 8-bit ugly but great category, I have an alternate or an honorable mention. And I'll say this real quick. Final Fantasy. The original 8-bit Final Fantasy, not a pretty game, but damn it all if it's not amazing.
Yeah,
I know, no. You guys know I love Final Fantasy. And it was great for what it was and what it sparked. But going back, it is dated.
Yeah, those tiny backgrounds in battle with just 4 characters in a box and a little background, and then the rest of it's black.
Yeah, well, it's a sexy older sister, I guess technically the sexy younger sister of Oregon Trail.
Ouch.
I mean, the game was based on D&D, so it was leaps and bounds from pen and paper numbers, but they still hadn't found their visual groove yet by any means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But the enemy sprites and the boss sprites in that game were extremely detailed, and there's a lot of variety in the monsters you face. Because I thought about this game as well for my list, and I didn't do it because of the variety of monsters and the graphics and the sprites.
Yeah, okay. See, I could definitely concede to that. But, to the point of it was inspired by or trying to invoke D&D, that's a great point, because D&D requires a lot of good imagination to fill in the gaps visually. And I think that is the point to Final Fantasy that I'm trying to make, is there's some cool ideas there, but with the limited motion and animation, you really have to use your, theater of the mind, as it were, to fill in those gaps.
That's pixel art in a nutshell for me, so I agree. But you can get some effing cool pixel art. That said, okay, I digress.
No doubt. No, that's good. Actually, Palsh, let's go to what's your Quasimodo game? The ugly but great game.
This one stuck out to me, and just because I always felt like it looked like an Atari game to me, kind of, that mated with an NES game, and it still had kind of elements of mostly Atari. A Boy and His Blob, because the graphics weren't really great, but the whole premise, this game was hard. I still won't touch it because I'm the fear of failure. But the fact that you could, give them like 40 different jelly beans and have all these different things, like you could turn your blob into a trampoline or a ladder or a friggin' rocket. It was really cool, but the graphics didn't keep up. But I thought, considering how ugly it still was pretty fun. And so that's just what stuck out for me.
Yeah, I own A Boy and His Blob, and I have started A Boy and His Blob, but I think the graphics, and I hate to say it this way because it makes me sound so shallow, but I think the graphics have prevented me from really getting into it. So I think that's a bit of a home run for choice there. But I can't speak to the greatness of the game, just to the ugliness.
As far as the sprite quality and, the image quality in general, yeah, everything is... the design choices as far as the characters, they're very ugly.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of detail. However, they're really smoothly animated for how ugly they are, which I always found kind of odd.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too, because it was so simplistic. I think they ended up getting a little bit more leeway when it came to animating them.
Yeah, but yeah, that game is definitely a favorite of mine. I had that growing up. I don't know what happened to my copy. I don't remember getting rid of it, but I don't know if it got lost in a move or I did eventually trade it in or something. That is a game I put far too many hours into as a child. Oh my goodness. Like, I can probably still remember what most of the jelly beans do. That's how much I played it.
Ketchup.
Ketchup hole?
Yes.
There's licorice ladder, root beer rocket.
I had a root beer rocket once.
I think I agree with GP on the in terms of the graphics is what probably turned me off from the game as well. I didn't really finish it. I made it to the off-world section, and that was interesting. But you spend the majority of your time underground, and there's such a limited palette of colors down there. It's all brown and black.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I found it extremely dull.
Yeah.
Their color choices definitely reflected what they went back to in the early 2000s, just with less bloom.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, what game do you have for us? Ugly but lovable for the 8-bit.
Well, I mean, some guys know me. If I'm not complaining about a game, I don't like it. And the one game I complain about all the time is R-Type for the Master System. And this game is brutally hard for me. It took me forever to beat it, and I had to use a continue code to do it. It's great. The gameplay is classic to me. The bosses are awesome. There's also a mechanic where if you don't beat the bosses fast enough to take away from you, there's, upgrades. It's a great game, ported on literally everything. But the Master System one is the one I played the most. But the thing that makes it ugly is there's slowdown constantly. There's flickering every other level. There's one level, I want to say it's the third one, where the background is this organic pulsing like red color. But that's fine, but the enemy shots are also red. So because of the poor choice in colors of the background, the enemy bullets, you can't see where the bullets are half the time, in addition to all the flickering. So like the graphics are just terrible, terrible. I've seen this game in arcades and it looks 10 times better. It's a shame because it's a fantastic gameplay. It plays well for me on any system. I know it for the Master System and I love it there, but the graphics on that system just can't keep up.
Gotcha. Okay. So I hear you saying that you've only beaten it with the continue code. So what you mean is you've never beaten it.
Oh.
Just a little bit of shade. If we're throwing shade at games,
I'll have to do it
warpless. Shade each other. Oh. You know what? Point taken. Shots fired. That one landed. That one landed hard.
Sick burn.
Sick burn. Wolf, what do you got for us for ugly? Or, well, no, I'm sorry. Let's not do that yet. Palsh and Werewolf, what do you guys think about R-Type?
I've never been a fan of shoot 'em ups or bullet hells, so R-Type was one I didn't really get into.
They kind of just blend together for me. Not that I'm saying it was a bad game or anything, but I can't tell the difference between R-Type and Gradius, and anybody who's a shoot 'em up fan right now is probably wanting to strangle me, so I apologize, but either way.
Honestly, you're not wrong.
There are very few shooters that pull me in.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the only one that really has stood out for me was like Life Force, and that's really the only one I paid attention to. I'm kind of like you guys with that, so I will have to take Sick Jake's word on this one.
Yeah,
but I believe him. Especially, I mean, yeah, I've never heard of anything like that where the bullets are the same color as the background. Obviously, that is a horrible design choice.
That's a controller thrower right there.
Yeah.
That ends up being NES hard.
It belongs in NES hard, but different system.
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah.
It's like a Master System hard. Doesn't have the same ring to it.
Doesn't roll off the tongue as much.
Yeah.
All right, so Wolf, what do you got for us on your quasi game.
The game that everybody is familiar with, the Ninja for Master System.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But this game, the gameplay is an absolute blast. You're running around, you're throwing shurikens at people, you get upgrades to your stuff, like movement upgrades, weapon upgrades, special attacks, all sorts of crap. The enemies, there's all sorts of enemy types. They have different AIs. The levels get mixed up. Some are, like, a lot of them are just, go from the bottom, scroll upward. Occasionally it's like scroll from right to left, but they've got like the river level where you're trying to move from log to log and kill enemies before they get you, stuff like that. They did a lot of creative things with the game, but boy, did it not look good at all. Like, there were a lot of sprites and there were a lot of ugly pixels. The colors, like, they use really bright colors. They're eye-catching colors, but there's so much of one color that covers the screen at a time that it fries your eyeballs a little bit. That bright neon green grass.
Yeah, everything looks green afterwards. It's like you must be wearing like tinted sunglasses afterwards. You're just like,
Yeah, there's really very little detail on any of the locations in the game. You got to use your imagination a lot. But that game is so much fun, and it's a hard one. So it's one of those ones that's like punishing and you want to go back.
I didn't even know that was for Master System. The first time I actually played it was on like a bootleg 31-in-1 NES cart, and I had no idea that this was bootleg up until like a few years ago. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, never mind.
I find it interesting that you also picked a Master System game. Do you think it's something to do with that system and that just couldn't put out the solid graphic power to handle those games? Because there's a few other games that are also not that great graphic-wise.
No, because there are some actually really pretty Master System games too. The Master System graphically had superior capabilities to the NES, but you have to remember there were a lot more companies pumping games out on the NES. It's like it was the platform that was supported versus the platform that wasn't. It doesn't matter how much power it has if people don't know how to make use of it.
Like, I'm just thinking of the Sonic games, and some of them are really terrible. The slowdown is ridiculous. Lots of flickering. Like, it's disappointing because there are great games on the system. It's one of my favorite systems.
Well, the Master System is just a Game Gear. It's a Game Gear fit to TV resolution, or rather, the Game Gear is a Master System fit to a smaller resolution. They're the exact same architecture. That's why all the emulators run both of them.
Interesting.
Okay, so that's our time for 8-bit games. Let's move on to 16-bit. If you guys are ready for that. Is that good?
Sure.
Ready.
Sure.
Holy cow. Is that Claw?
Yeah, we'll call it that.
Next time, 8-bit. Next time.
This is one of those rare occasions where I wish I had worn pants now. Now I feel awkward. Well, I'll tell you what, Wolf, let's start with you. 16-bit, ugly but great. What are you thinking?
Stunt race effects.
Yeah, I agree.
It was not
That
a
is
pretty
absolutely
game.
good.
It had a lot of character in the graphics, but it was not pretty at all. For whatever reason, I'm pretty sure those what is that gas station with the Chevron? Pretty sure those Chevron cars were inspired by this game.
Or vice versa?
But is it good?
Yeah, I you know what? They dropped it on the Switch this week, and I went back and played it, and I had so much fun with it. Oh my goodness. It was a lot of fun, and I used to play it a lot 2-player, which, I mean, you can play 2-player races against the AI as well, which is pretty taxing on a Super Nintendo, which I'm pretty sure that killed the frame rate big time, so it made it even uglier. It was still somehow playable, and it was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I was going to say the only time I saw frame rate that bad post Mario Kart on the Switch was after watching Stunt Race FX. Like, it's like 3 FPS. It's so bad.
You know, that brings up, I mean, we'll have to see how the rest of the show plays out. But I've had in the back of my mind like this big question mark of the two categories today. How many sports games or how many racing games ultimately are going to be referenced? So we're going to chuck that down as the first one, I suppose, for racing. But that's interesting to me. I think that's a good pick, absolutely. But I'm glad you chose that, because while that was on my short list of like 5 games, I was so hesitant to pull out a racing game or a sport themed game, because those really didn't hit their stride until much later. But I like that one. Palsh, what do you got for us on 16-bit?
Mine is pretty much the 16-bit argument all over again from 8-bit. I've got a game that was hard that I loved, but the same kind of problem, Lemmings. And I hate saying it because Lemmings look terrible. I mean, but they're, they're like 6 pixels each, so you can't really complain too much. But the idea behind it, again, was so cool. Like, you could make one guy stop everybody else. Another one would start digging. Another one would start digging upwards and whatever. So the game itself was just great. The music is probably one of the top 5 for, like, Super Nintendo for me for soundtracks. But I just remember, and it never bothered me about the graphics. I'm just saying it just, they don't look great.
I tell you what I appreciate here is, forgive me for saying it this way, the shame in your voice when you said Lemmings. It's almost like, it's 3 a.m. I've had a few drinks. I'm lonely. I'm going to call Lemmings and not tell anybody about it the next day. So I love that. See, that's why I love this idea for the episode.
You sneaky rapscallion.
Oh, yeah, you got me good. But no, I love that. I think that's a great choice. And I think we've all done that with either Lemmings or a game like Lemmings, where you're like, I just want to sate my appetite, but I'm not proud of it. Let's play Lemmings.
Yeah.
That's good. What do you guys think about Lemmings?
That's actually another game where, despite the ugliness of the palette and the little tiny characters that you could barely make out, they were really smoothly animated, and they conveyed a lot of information with 15 pixels.
Yeah, you could tell what they were doing.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So they definitely went for function over form,
and I think they succeeded. So I mean, that's saying something.
Oh yeah, it's a great game. It's that argument again. It's got a great personality.
Okay. All right. The backgrounds, okay, granted, not all the backgrounds are your hot redhead, okay? But a lot of them look fine to me. There's one, I played on the Genesis, so it's 16-bit. And the one level, or there's a couple levels with the forest theme, I thought that looked amazing. And the fact that you could dig through the leaves of the tree and everything looked great to me.
Yeah, I can see your point there.
Plus, the intro was funny. I thought the intro was well animated as well.
Yeah, it's true.
And like Wulff said, 6 pixels, what are you going to do, right? There's only so much you can do with 6 pixels on a character.
And now you see why I feel guilty even saying it, because it's like there's so much charm to this game, and considering what they've done with it. So,
no, I think it's a great game that conveys exactly what it needed to. But you're right, there's not much frill to it outside of, like, visually, it's not arresting in a positive way.
Yeah, it's not something that ever made me stop and look when I saw it on a screen anywhere. But playing it, I could not put it down.
Yeah, it's a game you play in your own home. Like, if you had gone to Walmart and they had that on the display, you'd be like, not here, Lemmings. We can know each other, but nobody can know we know each other. I'm going to sound like a jerk for this entire episode.
Just you wait. I'll get you back.
Nice, okay. All right, so Palsh 109 with Lemmings. Sick Jake, what do you got for us? 16-bit.
16-bit, so you mentioned earlier about racing games, and this is technically a racing game. It's Uniracers for the SNES.
Oh, man, I forgot about that.
So I don't know if you guys have played this game before.
Was that Unicycles?
Yeah, it was like unicycles without riders.
Okay. Yeah, I remember, yeah.
It's the weirdest concept for a video game I've seen in a while, but I love the hell of this game. I got it at a used store for like $10. Graphic-wise, literally, you guys said it. You're just a unicycle, no rider. And the tracks are basically this candy stripe, line that loops around and goes left to right. there's not much going on graphic-wise. But gameplay-wise, the trick system in it, there's like a dozen different tricks you can do with your bike. You know, flips and cartwheels, all kinds of crazy stuff. And you need to do those tricks in order to build up speed and momentum. And you kind of get tied up in the different modes. Like some of the modes are focused on doing the stunts. Other ones are about speed. Some are just like, you know, marathon and length. There's a lot of variety and tracks in the game. The gameplay is outstanding. The only problem is a lot of them look the same.
It's the precursor to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Now that you mention it, yeah, that game did a ton of stuff for being a 2D side-on racing game.
Yeah, but I think when you can make the argument that if Marble Madness makes you look like a chump, then...
Okay.
You know, yeah.
Marbles ain't no backflipping.
Well, they might be, but you can't tell because they're spherical. There's just no way of knowing. No, I think that's a good... And you're right, like, that's the kind of racing thing as well. So that's interesting. I remember the game. I don't remember much of playing it, though. But I can see it in my mind. And, I agree. I think that's a good entry. What do you guys think?
I would agree that game was not a whole lot to look at. Like, it was cleanly animated, but it was literally, you know, the track is just a candy-striped bar on the ground that moves around, and then you're a unicycle. No character on the unicycle. You're just a unicycle doing stunts and tricks and jumps and bouncing around and zooming along. So it was a limited presentation type of game, I would say. Yeah,
but Werewolf, the way that you just described it, like you're a unicycle going around doing tricks and bumps and jumps and all, if you said that to me, I would want to pick that up. The way you just presented that actually had me interested. I'm like, well, shit, maybe I should play this again.
It was an absolute blast. It really was. I played the crap out of it.
That's good. I mean, that's the heart and soul of this category. So that's good. I'll jump in now with my 16-bit. I was torn between two, so I'm going to pick the one that's a little bit more controversial, just because it'll be a better discussion. But I was thinking about doing Star Fox, but I think we can all agree it did not age well. It was not great, but it's a fun game. I know Sick Jake loves it. But what I'm gonna officially state is the original Mortal Kombat. Now, I love most Mortal Kombats, you know, in the series. But if you look at the first Mortal Kombat, and when I first played that, I played it around the same time as Street Fighter 2. So comparatively, Street Fighter 2, crisper, cleaner, brighter, smoother. And to me, Mortal Kombat, though I enjoy it, the first one was very clunky.
You hear how he's stressing that he has to, though I enjoyed it. You know, he's doing what I did.
That's right, because there's points coming in later, Palsh. Mortal Kombat will make other entries in the future. Starting with Mortal Kombat 2, great franchise. And if you look at this disparity between how poorly the first one looks and plays compared to MK2, that's kind of the crux of my argument for Mortal Kombat. If they had ended the Mortal Kombat series with the first one, it wouldn't have made the list. But out of all of it, yes, MK1, not that great, in my opinion. Fun to play, but just pretty ugly.
You know what? I can get beyond that. I thought it was really cool to see Street Fighter 2 and had all the way smoother animations and stuff. But I mean, they weren't taking, you know, real life models and trying to digitize them. So the motions and the animations were so much more fluid because you're working with a cartoon versus real life. So it was fun. Don't get me wrong, but you know, I thought it looked pretty bad.
Yeah, it's the video game equivalent to Spawn, the live-action movie.
Yeah.
The one with John Leguizamo. Yeah, it didn't necessarily look that great. Also, some of the acting was hit or miss. But in the end, there's something about it that I still love. But yeah, Wolf, what do you think about that? Mortal Kombat, ugly but great, or just a game? What do you think?
I think it's just a game. I was never drawn into Mortal Kombat like all my friends were. I mean, I was in the initial rush of it. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, they're just brutally bashing each other's skulls in, and there's blood, and oh man. But at the end of the day, I was still kind of like, well, Street Fighter's more fun and prettier. I'm kind of over this. Granted, my experience with it was a neighborhood full of kids who had the Genesis, so it was even more limited than the Super Nintendo one. So I'm kind of colored by that memory. Everybody I knew had it for Genesis because, of course, more blood.
Right, yeah. Okay. Jake, how about you?
Oh, man, I hate disagreeing with you guys on every game. It's not that bad. Okay, look, you're right. Street Fighter is definitely
It's hot garbage. Say it.
Game. But it's not lukewarm garbage at best, okay?
But if
5 seconds in the microwave. And
Bring on
it's
the
okay.
garbage!
If your argument against me here is it's not that bad,
Okay.
then it's kind of that bad.
Yeah.
All right. The color palette is a bit limited. I give you that. But the digitized actors was revolutionary, and they look pretty good. In fact, I wonder if you compared the frames of animation in Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. I bet you that they have the same frames. The only difference is it's not as colorful. And like you're right, when you mentioned the later entries of the series, they kind of expand on that. Mortal Kombat 3 is one of my favorite fighting games, and the color palette there is amazing. But just watching Kano, that rapscallion thrusting his fist in somebody's chest and pulling out their beating heart, that looked great. I thought that was hilarious. It was good looking to me at the time. I liked the look of the game. I also love Sub-Zero. I'm Team Sub-Zero. I will be for life. I thought the sprites and the characters were well done. I'll agree Street Fighter looks better, but I think Mortal Kombat is not as bad as you think it is. It's no Clay Fighter, put it that way.
Okay.
Basically, Jake feels like Goro when he got punched in the nuts in the first movie.
It's true.
And the rest of us feel like Johnny Cage.
Yeah. Those are $500 glasses, asshole.
Glasshole?
This is before or after the vasectomy.
I'm leaving that one in there.
Yeah, glasshole for the win. Okay. I like that. Okay, so next is going to be the 32-bit category. Let's start with Palsh. Tell me something.
Wait, let's clarify. This tier is 32/64 bit because we're it's the same generation.
Oh, so we can switch it up? Okay. So I'm going to name a game, and I'm going to tell you guys what the game, and I want you to tell me if you think that I think it's ugly but amazing, or if I think it's terrible but beautiful. Okay?
Okay.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Okay, if you don't think that's a pretty game, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, I'm just trolling. I was waiting for more of a rant.
See, I was in on that one, so otherwise I probably would have laid into Palsh. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. No, that one I can't say anything bad about. So, anyways, that's the joke. So, anyways, continue forward.
No, now you have to give us a real game. Yeah, ugly but beautiful, 32 or 64-bit. Go ahead.
Doom 64.
Okay, tell us about that. Why do you hate that game so much?
It looked great. I remember seeing magazine ads. I remember playing it, or not playing it, wanting to play it. And then finally I went out on vacation, came back, and I had a copy of it in my hand. I was like, it was this or Duke Nukem 64. I was already playing Duke Nukem 64. I was like, okay, so I need something new for me and my friends so we can just lay into this game. And I tried it, and I was like, this looks so cool. And then I realized this game is crap. I was so disappointed with it. It moved well, like the graphics looked great, but other than that, it just felt like a little bit better version of Doom to me. Like, and I can't play the original Doom anymore. I give it headaches just from the motion. So it looked better, but I was disappointed because I thought it was, the 64, and it just meant it was for 64, and I thought it was going to be the actual Doom with better graphics. No, it was completely different. Like, they made their own game, and I wasn't ready for that disappointment.
You've given me a bit of a revelation here, and agree or disagree, but let me know. Would you say...
No.
Okay, moving on. No, would you say that video game commercials and box art and descriptions were the back-in-the-day preteen equivalent to Tinder profiles?
Never thought about it now.
Yeah.
They show up and you're so excited because their profile, and then they show up and you realize, this is not what I thought it was going to be at all.
Man.
Sir?
Well, you are thirsty in hell.
Yeah.
Oh, God. thirsty for that video game.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't care about girls back then. I just cared about more video games.
Just think about that power-up.
Just thinking about the power-ups. What was your favorite position back then? 64? Wait, we can cut that out.
Nope.
3 hands on the stick.
That's my Joy-Con.
You need 3 hands to play an N64 controller.
Yeah, we saw that meme, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Doom 64, Werewolf, what do you think? Agree, disagree?
That's one I don't know much about, unfortunately. I thought it was just going to be Doom for N64, so I didn't bother with it.
I didn't have a PC, okay? Shut up.
No, literally, like, I thought it was Doom, like, because I'd played it on, I think I played it at a friend's house on PC, and then, or I had played it on Super Nintendo, so I was like, well, I played it on a couple of platforms, I don't want to play it again, so I didn't play it for N64.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I bought it, because I was like, oh, man, like, it's a better version. No. Wrong.
That's brilliant. Wrong. What was that, Charlie Murphy?
Yeah,
Wrong.
right? Wrong.
Or the Tigers in WoW. Wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, but see, like, how great of a pick was that? Palsh bought the game because of 2 words. Doom 64. Werewolf did not buy that game because of 2 words. Doom 64.
I swiped left so hard.
So hard, man.
Man, I practically hit Super Like, all right?
I don't get that reference. I don't know Super Like.
I'm very single, we'll put it that way.
Word up. Okay, so Jake, what do you got for us with Doom 64?
I'm actually not a fan of Doom. I actually don't like the series at all. Although the recent PC ones that came out, the reboots, those are okay. But the classic Doom I never really cared for. And there was a series of games on the N64 that kind of tried to bring over some of the PC stuff. There's Duke Nukem and Hexen. And I think Hexen, that's a word, was the better of those type of games, that 2D sprites in a 3D world. I didn't care for Doom 64 at all. I did rent it. I played a little bit. I couldn't care for it at all. It is ugly. I'll give you that. I just also think it's a bad game.
And I think Doom 64 was one of those games where I watched my cousins play it, and I loved watching them. Like, I could keep up with it if I was watching somebody else, but the first time I tried playing it, it was like I completely had forgotten what it was like to look at the game and could no longer keep up with it. So I played maybe 30 minutes of it and realized this is not for me to play, but it was entertaining to watch other people run and gun and blow up stuff. So I like it, and the visuals are okay so long as I am not guiding the visuals. But that's just me. Sick Jake, what do you have for us for this category? Ugly but great, 32 or 64-bit.
Okay. Hear me out. Final Fantasy VII. I love this game.
Oh, I think that's a great choice, yeah.
Everybody loves Final Fantasy VII, or at least people who were in that generation love Final Fantasy VII. Today, it doesn't hold up, for sure. I mean, the pre-rendered backgrounds and the CGI, very pixelated, very under-res for today's time. But even back in high school when I played this game originally, the sprites in the overworld and the exploration areas, like Cloud, looks like some kind of Peanuts character mutated into 3D polygons. And there's no textures anywhere to be found on any of the enemies, practically. It is one of the ugliest first-gen 3D games I've ever seen. Like, I'm talking Mario 64 makes Final Fantasy VII's Cloud look like fucking the Mona Lisa. This game is ugly. The only reason people like this game is because of the FMV. The video is very cool, and I love the story. I love the music. And the gameplay is fun. But it's ugly as hell.
No, I think that may be one of the best, because that's exactly right. And I think part of the reason, personally, I was so let down by the graphics is because the commercials that came out back in 97 for the game pretty much only showed the FMV.
It's the worst
And so
thing.
you're hyped for this, and you're like, oh my god, considering the last Final Fantasy was 6, leaps and bounds. And you play it, and you're, like you said, you're just playing to get to the next video. But somewhere in there, you fall in love with it.
That's probably like the earliest version of, people getting mad because of, not showing gameplay. because that wasn't a practice back then. Everybody just played the game because there weren't cutscenes like that. And now it's like, those cutscenes look awesome, but let's see what the gameplay looks like, So you have gameplay trailers besides, the actual trailer.
Well, yeah, it's the video. You ever been catfished by a video game? That's the idea, right?
Those
to bring the whole dating thing around again. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think that's a great observation. And that is the cultural and historical significance of the Final Fantasy VII commercials. But if you go back and still, because I did this recently, if you YouTube the original Final Fantasy VII television commercials, I still get the same feels.
Oh yeah, the atmosphere is amazing, and it's that jump from SNES to PlayStation. You're just so hyped that the game is going to look amazing. And we all love Final Fantasy VI, I think, on this podcast.
Oh yeah.
And just the sprite work in there is great. The bosses look awesome. Its graphics are amazing, but it's 2D. So you're just really hoping that the jump to 3D would be something amazing. And what they show you in the commercials looks great. But that's maybe, 10 minutes of FMV in the entire game?
Yeah.
That's true.
Werewolf, yeah, what do you think? Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, I'm probably in the minority here to where I'm not a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII. That's not to say I wasn't when it came out. I played 200 hours probably in that first go-through where I did just about everything, I think, except killing Ruby Weapon. I even made a second Knights of the Round. So...
So I'm hearing you say you never beat Final Fantasy VII. I'm playing.
God. No, I even made, I enjoyed that game so much that time that I even made a friggin' anime music video, an AMV, out of it back in the day with VHS. That was time consuming, first off.
That's dedication.
You're one of those.
I still, that's the only one I ever did. Well, no, that's not true. I did one with Resident Evil as well. But, I really enjoyed that game the first time. And then every time I've tried to play since, I can't put more than 3 hours into it before I'm just bored and walk away. The game, even when I tried to play it a second time back then, I was just nah, I can't. So, to me, the game... It hit some notes the first time. Other than that, I can't agree with that it's an amazing game. I feel like it's just been overhyped so much. And I think it's also the fact that it wasn't my first Final Fantasy. A lot of people who love it, it was their first Final Fantasy. And that's often the case. But I will agree, the game didn't look quite as good as I was hoping. But then I had spent all summer playing Suikoden and Wild Arms. And compared to Wild Arms, it was damn gorgeous.
Wait, you mean it's not pronounced Suikoden? Crap.
No, but yeah.
No, bullshit, it's pronounced Wild Arms.
That jump from sprites, it made it with those backgrounds and everything. Even though they weren't pretty polygons by any means for the characters, it was still an exciting change of presentation that let them tell the story in a different way.
And I feel like with Final Fantasy VII, they overcorrected the ship when they came out with Final Fantasy VIII. With 7, the backgrounds looked more lush and detailed than the characters, and then they came out with 8, and the background was kind of put on the back burner so they could focus on the sprites and the overworld for the main characters. So at least they paid attention and corrected a lot of people's biggest complaints. But yeah, I think that was a good entry there. Werewolf, what do you have for us in this category? 32 to 64-bit, ugly but lovable.
Bushido Blade.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Suikoden?
Bushido Blade. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of a Square fanboy back in the PlayStation era. So I was getting all their stuff. I had bought Tobal number 1. Nobody got Tobal number 1. But I got Bushido Blade, and it's not what I expected it to be. And I had so much fun with it. My friends and I, we would just sit there and play Bushido Blade for hours just because the combat, it was so intricate for as limited as it was. I mean, you injure your opponent, but if you got a killing stab, that was it. That match was over with. There was no health bars. It was injury or death. And you can even mess up your opponent by throwing sand in their face like a dirty rapscallion and then taking advantage of it. It was It was so much fun, and even just unlocking it, I think it had a couple of hidden characters. It was totally worth it. There was a lot of nuance to the gameplay that you don't see in a lot of fighting games.
I'm sitting here, I'm trying to remember exactly which one Bushido Blade was. So it was a fighting game?
Yeah, to a degree. It was a weapons fighting game. And I think you actually got to choose between a few weapons, too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, what'd the cover art look like? I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember this one now.
It was black and white with, I think, a big red splatter on it. It was like a black and white pencil drawing or ink drawing of somebody, and then a big red blood splatter. And it said Bushido Blade.
I'm also, I Google imaged it, and I do remember now. I'm sorry, thank you.
But yeah, the character models were not pretty, the locations were not very pretty, they weren't even very detailed. It was like, one of them was a big courtyard of cherry blossom trees, and it looked like they just copy-pasted the same square of the arena over and over and over and over along from one end to the other until they got to the opposite wall.
There was a wonky camera in that game for sure. It used to zoom way out or like really get really close.
Yeah, because it let you run away from your opponent pretty far.
Right.
Which, of course, just made the characters even more unreadable.
Yeah, more obscure. But yeah, I'll be honest, that sounds like a piece of crap. Aesthetically. Well done. That's a good entry. Sick Jake, what do you think about that one?
I love the game too. I mean, we talked about this before the podcast. Bushido Blade's one of my favorite games on the PlayStation because there's not that many. I played on that. The combat, the one-on-one combat, I just love how most weapon strikes will like outright kill your opponent if they connect, but there's all about the parry system, and that's pretty unique for its time. And there's not many games these days that have that same, do or die combat system. But I just love it when I think if you nick somebody's leg, they drop to the ground, but they weren't dead, so they still kept fighting while they're on the floor. I thought it was hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, they'll like drag one leg while like trying to walk with the other leg with this horrible limp, and
it's great. It's like Monty Python Black Knight fight, right? Like
you break their arm and it just falls limp.
They should have made the Black Knight like an unlockable character.
Oh no, your polygon's off. It's great. I love it.
Oh, God.
The backgrounds, I agree, are bad, but there was a style to it though. Like the bamboo forest, the cherry blossoms. It felt like that martial arts, trope that's set up in a deserted field, a courtyard that's been cleared away, two warriors at battle. It had the style, but yeah, you're right. It did not have the graphic power and the textures to back it up.
And then in the background, you see just the opening scene from Ninja Gaiden taking place.
As long as that music from Ninja Gaiden's playing, I'm down for it.
Oh, I love that game. Okay. So, Palsh, what was your... No, you got us at the beginning. Sorry.
I got
awesome
you.
Castlevania joke, yes. And then Wulff got us with Bushido Blade. Jake, what do you got?
We already went. Final Fantasy VII, man.
Oh, that's right. That's how forgettable of a game that is.
Oh, damn.
I know. I'm drinking my haterade tonight. I'm playing now. No, the reason I'm stalling is because I've got so many honorable mentions for this category for 32 to 64. Ultimately, I've settled on one, but Metal Gear Solid has not aged well. These are my honorable mentions. Such a great game, full of story and a lot of amazing twists and turns. But even playing that when it came out, the graphics took me out of it. Mortal Kombat Mythology, Sub-Zero. The fighting in that, I don't know if you guys ever played that. The graphics were bad. The fighting style was decent, but the platforming was abysmal. But it was still oddly charming because it's Sub-Zero in an open world type setting. But ultimately, I think I have to settle for ugly, but with a lot of heart, Nintendo 64's GoldenEye. It was going to be that or Superman 64. And ultimately, I just don't care enough about Superman 64. So, GoldenEye, right? Because I love that game. I don't know how much of the actual game or campaign I ever played through. I know I've watched it wire to wire with my older brother, but the 4-person, challenge mode was my entire experience pretty much with the 64. Like that and Mario 64 and not much else.
That's all you needed, really.
Yeah, well, but I mean, even if you guys ever played like the giant head hack or, code for GoldenEye.
DK mode.
That game was DK mode. So incredibly ugly, but so much fun. And for me, it was one of the first multiplayer, games like that. But what do you guys think about GoldenEye? Palsh, let's start with you.
You summed it up. I really can't add to it because it's just... I want to say I loved it when it first came out, but it seemed like for graphics wise, but I think it was more just how you could shoot people in the crotch and they grab their crotch and then fall over dead, and it would tell you like, it give you the tally of headshots, arm shots, leg shots, torso, other, and other was always the crotch shot. So,
right, yeah.
But I mean, the graphics, as much as I wanted to admit, I thought they were amazing. I think it was more the gameplay itself. So,
and I mean, slappers only, right? I'm still playing that from an unfinished game that we started back then. That's impossible. Werewolf, what do you think about GoldenEye?
Yeah, it didn't have a whole lot of texturing. I think the majority of the texture quality went to the characters' faces, but not their models. So the game itself, though, was an absolute blast. It wasn't a whole lot to look at, which is probably for the best because I think it helped it run a little smoother. There were a lot of N64 first-person games that gave me headaches or made me dizzy, something like that. Man, I spent so many hours in that game with friends after school. We'd just go to somebody's house and play for like 2-3 hours that day and then do it all over again the next day. It was crazy.
Well, and it was just good enough of a game to make you want to hate your friends.
Oh, yeah.
But only for a short amount of time, because like you said, the next day you were fine. Or if you were mad at somebody, you were only mad until you shot them in the crotch, and then you were square.
That and Mario Kart 64 were games that end your friendship for the day.
Yep.
But it's fine tomorrow.
Yeah, and then you start it all over again with the next match.
Yeah.
We should set up a multi-person tournament or like cast of if we can figure out a way to do that, of either like Mario Kart or GoldenEye. I think would be a blast.
There's a PC version, I think, actually, of GoldenEye.
Isn't it awful? I thought it was awful.
Okay. Just like the original.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sick Jake, yeah. What's your take on GoldenEye?
Wulff said I pretty much nailed it on the head with the low character polys, or low polys on the character models. The triangle-shaped heads, it reminds me of that music video, Dire Straits' Money for Nothing, where it's just abysmally low polygon models. And it's just terrible. Plus, it's the N64, and hey, I love the system. I love Nintendo, but they had the fog problem, like the jungle level and the Russian level. The design to get around the graphic failures, they brought in more fog. Just more fog. And they do that in all these games, and it just does not work for the game at all. But it's a fun game. I used to play multiplayer like everybody else. Proximity Mines is my favorite weapon. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the game, and I love playing it, but you're right. It's ugly as dirt.
Yeah. Do you know who I killed more with proximity mines than anybody else?
Yourself.
Yes, me. My short-term memory, man.
I tried to lure people into it without setting it off myself, and was very unsuccessful.
Sure. When to the point of the fog, and to kind of again put this all in the same packaging as the Tinder and the dating things, they do the same thing in nightclubs. Let's just dim the lights a little bit and put in some more fog. It'll be fine. So we've all fallen victim to that. It's okay. All right. So on to the other side of that coin. Let's now examine the beautiful games that are completely without any other merits. Next time, well, maybe not next time, but in the upcoming episodes on Press B to Cancel, let's go around and restate our names. Us group of rapscallions, and tell everybody where they can find us. Jake, you want to start us off?
Sure, I'm Sick Jake. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter, and I guess here.
Wonderful, thank you. Palsh?
You can find me here, most of all. And I also stream very sparingly on Twitch as well under Palsh 109, Palsh 109.
Okay, very good. And Werewolf.
You can find me streaming on Twitch or here or occasionally posting on Twitter at Werewolf, WAREWULFF.
Awesome. And I am Guy Prime. You can find me here on Twitch under The Retro Therapy or on YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter as The Retro Therapy. Everybody, until next time, thank you so much for joining us.
Special thanks for music go to Arthur the Ancient, found on SoundCloud, or The Last Ancient on YouTube. For more episodes, please visit our website, pressbtocancel.com. As well, feel free to like or subscribe at Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else you like to listen to your favorite shows. As always, thank you. This has been
Press B to cancel.